review, and then we'll move forward. And if we have time, yes, you will see a fairly funny but very true video on men's brains versus
The S word.
brains. So, didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So the anchor for this lesson is healthy relationships have God in the center. And remember, we talked about how when our lives are centered on God, then that orders not only just our relationships, but everything about our lives, everything about who we are. And so the significance of godly relationships, God is a relational God. We talked about the Godhead, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But then we also talked about this idea that we are created for relationships. And first and foremost, we're created for a relationship with God. God created Adam and Eve and each one of us to live in relationship with Him. He desires to have a relationship with you, and that alone is astounding. The God of the universe desires to have a relationship with you. And then I will read this quote. A relationship with God should be our highest priority, shaping all of our other relationships in life, family, friendships, dating relationships, and marriage. Your relationship with God will determine your relationships with others, will have an impact on the relationships with others. And the closer you walk to God, the closer you can walk with other people. There are two things that are true about my marriage that make women the most upset when I tell them this. Well, there's one that makes them the most upset. And it's this, that I have never, in 36 and a half years of marriage, ever picked up anything that Jeff left on the floor. Never. Now, he's picked up after me many times, but not the other way around. Most nights he does the dishes. In fact, he does the dishes so many nights that when Katie was little and we were sitting at the kitchen table and Jeff got up to start doing the dishes, and I turned to Katie, she was maybe 5 years old, and I said, Katie, marry a man who does the dishes. And she said, oh, Mommy, all daddies do the dishes. Your daddy has skewed you on that. I cook, he cleans up. The other thing is this, and they don't get mad at me, but I this is a serious one having to do with our relationships. Never in 36 years has either of us ever called the other one a mean. Sweetie, honey, all that, sure, but not. Now we've had fights. We've said unkind things to each other. We've said things that we regret. But yelling and name calling, we don't do that. Why? Because we're so great. No, because we walk with Jesus and He informs our life. You okay? Okay.
She's walking out.
I don't know. I thought she was leaving.
I'm done.
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
No more relationships.
I'm not name calling. I'm out.
Stupid teacher.
This is what my parents said.
Yeah. So we talked about friendships and how friendships will affect you, right? He who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. There's a reason when you get a bunch of 8th grade boys together, nothing good's going to happen, right? Because he who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. So surround yourself with the right kind of friends. Surround yourself with people who help you grow in your relationship with God, who encourage you in your relationship with God. And then I like this saying because it reminds me of a cross stitch my mother made and put in my room to find a friend, be a friend. The cross stitch said, the only way to have a friend is to be one. And I like saying it that way. Be a good friend. And if you're a good friend, you'll find friends that will be good friends. And then stay focused on to whom we belong. We belong to Christ. We are His. And everything we do and every friendship we have should be predicated on that truth that we are not our own. We were bought at a price, and we are His. So, what do healthy relationships look like? What do you think? We're still just talking about friendships. What do you think makes a good friendship? What is a good friendship? Yeah.
Where I was going with this. Two people who put equal amounts in, like, equal amounts of effort into, like,
Right, it's not just one person always being the strong one,
It's
always
not
being
for-
the, yeah.
it's not for the benefit of one person, it's for the benefit of
That you're equally yoked, right? That idea of being. So I meant to ask it this way. What do you think? What does it mean to be a good friend? Basically, any other answers to that? Yeah, Justin. Put them before yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Prefer the other person. Yes. Be honest. Now, there's a way to be honest, and there's a way to not be honest, right? Don't be mean honest, but if it's given in love, if that honesty is given in love, and if that other person is mature, they'll hear that. They'll think, yes. Yeah, gossip kills friendships, and it kills communities of friends, like here, right? And we got to stay away from that. So, uh, your friend, we already talked about this. Your friendships will affect you. Surround yourself with the right kind of friends. Find a friend, be a friend. Stay focused on to whom we belong, and then what do healthy relationships look like? We're not going to get to that just yet. So one of the things that I think is really important, I think you need to find a friend, especially as you mature and get into college or whatever it is, that you find a friend who's willing to tell you something you don't want to hear. A truth, something you need to hear, but you don't want to hear. And when that godly friend tells you something you don't want to hear, but you need to hear, listen. My sisters are that for me, all three of them. At different times have been that for me. But the friend, not the friend that I share DNA with, is that has done that the best for me is Stan Parker, who is running for mayor in Lincoln. And I asked Jeff if we could move to Lincoln just so we could vote for him. But he said we couldn't. So I've known Stan for more than 30 years, and he we led, I think you know this, the Millard North FCA together for a number of years. And we'd spend time going back and forth to FCA, and we spent a lot of time, talking about things. And he's just such a godly man. And I'll tell you, 2 times when he spoke into my life something I didn't want to hear. The first one was when after I was the student council person or leader for Millard North, and I brought in donkey basketball to Millard North. This before. So you played basketball on donkeys, trained donkeys. I did it in Colorado too, but when I did it in Colorado, I was student council advisor there as well. I actually rode the donkey. When I brought it to Millard North, I was smart enough not to ride the donkey. So 2 of the donkeys are trained to be at either end of the court, right under the basket. Greatest play in the entire Millard North game. Shea Bradenkamp got the ball under the hoop, stood on the saddle, and dunked that thing. And they don't move. No matter what happens, they don't move. Now, all the other ones do whatever the guy tells them to do. So he'll do his little. He has a little thing. He doesn't like whip them, but he has this thing, and they'll go running down the court, and then he does this. They go and they stop. I went over the donkey's head. I'm flying over the donkey's head. So I was smart enough not to actually be part of it. I was the announcer. And Stan is bald. Stan has been bald since his 20s. I met him 30 years ago. He's younger than I am. He's what would he be, about 58? So 30 years ago he was bald. And so when I introduced him in donkey basketball, I said, "Stan the bald man Parker," and he goes out there. And we're driving to FCA the next week, and he said, "That was hurtful. I really didn't like that." And I said, "Oh, Stan, I was teasing." He said, "Well, that's not love." And I said, "But I tease you because I love you. That's not love." I was like, "Oh, come on. It's just a joke. That's not love." And I realized, it's not. Another time, much more important time, was when we had a small group from our church that met in our house. And I don't know why I couldn't be there, but I couldn't be there. Probably had something to do with teaching. No, it wouldn't have been because I was staying home. I don't know where I had to go, but I had to go somewhere. So I wasn't there that night. And when I left our house that night, we were happy members of the church we had been attending, where we were members. And when I came back, Jeff said, "We got to leave the church tonight." Here's the thing: it wasn't the church wasn't the problem. The denomination was a problem. The denomination was getting farther and farther away from the moorings of the denomination originally, and they were giving money to Planned Parenthood and paying for abortions, and some of the money we gave our church went to the denomination. And they just did a lot of different things with the theology. So we didn't leave a church; we left a denomination. And I knew that I would submit to my husband because I believe that is my calling to do. But I wanted us to be on the same page. So I said, "Could we just go talk to Stan about this?" So we went down to their house. We had a nice dinner, and we're sitting around after dinner. And Stan says, "Okay, Jeff, tell me your side of the story." And Jeff told him his side of the story. And then he turned to me and he said, "Tell me your side of the story." And I told him my side of the story. And then after I was done, he looked at me and said, "I'm going to tell you this because it's you." And I said, "I'm going to take it because it's you." And he said, "What I hear coming out of Jeff's mouth is a sincere desire to lead his family where God would have you go. And what I hear out of your mouth is you're comfortable." Now, you're right. And Jeff was right. Because now, more than 25 years later, our children grew up in that church. Wayne wasn't even born. And it has been a blessing to our family. And now I get to go to church with Mr. Hood. And so when you find a friend who's willing to tell you something you don't want to hear, and if it's a godly person, listen to what they're saying. Don't just become angry and walk away, which is easy. I could have done. Yeah, find someone that'll tell you the truth. So then, demonstrate a servant's heart toward one another. Treat people with kindness. And then when you're in a place like you're in a youth group, or it happens here sometimes that a new student comes in, treat them with kindness. Reach out to those people. It can be really lonely to come to a new church or a new youth group or a new school and not have people reach out to you. It was really lonely for me. I moved every 1.8 years of my entire childhood. I don't even know how many schools I went to. Twice I moved in the middle of a school year. And you're in middle school, you're in 7th grade, and you're moving, halfway across the country to this new school that you know nothing about. And by and large, people didn't reach out to me. That was a really lonely place. So reach out to other people, and I see that at Cornerstone when people come in that they're welcomed and they feel like they're heard and they're known, and that's part of being a good friend. So yeah, I just want you to think about this question, and then we'll move on to dating relationships. So if you were to ask people with whom you hang out whether or not you're a good friend, what would they say? Just think about that. So the most important thing in our relationships is to stay focused on God and who He is and who He wants us to be in our friendships. Yeah. So let's move on then to dating relationships. So, and what those look like. So if you want to find the right person, how many want to find the right person? Nobody wants to. Good, we're done. We don't have to talk about dating.
Yes!
Nobody's going to date. Nobody's going to get married. We're all done. Excellent. No. How many of you would like to find the right person? Mary, the person for you, right? Okay. That's good. So if you want to find the right person, you have to be the right person. And that means living fundamentally differently than the world does. Jeff and I I was 25 and he was almost 29 when we married. We waited a long time. Collectively, we waited for each other for like 5 years or something like that. But it was worth the wait because he was the right person for me and I was the right person for him. By the way, I don't believe in the idea of a soulmate. We'll get into that later. But I think there's a few. I don't think there's one person that's just. But I know there are right people and wrong people, and so you need to be that right person as well. So then the next thing is that, and you're not going to believe me on this, and that's okay because you'll come back to me someday. I'll probably be in a wheelchair, in a high chair, not a high chair, in a rocking chair in the nursing home, and you'll say, "Mrs. Keiser, you were right about that," and I'm going to say, "What?" Mrs. Keiser, you were right about that. Oh, you're so nice. Who are you? But you have to understand that men and women are different from one another. No. And men tend to treat women like they are men, and women tend to treat men like they are women. They tend to try to connect with their own style, and it doesn't work. I'm going to tell you this now, and then I'll play the video. No, I'm not going to tell you now, because we'll have enough time for you to say it. Say it. No, I will, after you watch this. Okay. It'll make more sense after you watch this, okay? Okay.